winter is here. Hello and welcome to the Friday Fantasy Show from the Bottled Imp, exploring the realms of fantasy. My name is Ken Boyter and today we're going to take another look at Game of Thrones. The TV series this time, Series 7, oh yes. And this is the one that's all up to date. They haven't shown Series 8 yet, as of this filming, on television. So we're all up to date. This is 7 episodes. Normally they're 10. So I think they've spent the same amount of money though. So have they got enough, did they put the budget to use or have they just squandered it? This is Series 7 and this one is a lot of this. There's nothing from the books really because, as a lot of Game of Thrones fans know, A Song of Ice and Fire, of which this is adapted by George R.R. Martin, there's only 5 books. Okay, they're big books, but they've pretty much run out of material from the books. We're still waiting desperately for book 6. Come on, George, write it. Anyway, let's crack on. Let's see if the budget has fulfilled its promise. So just what is the setup? Well, I'm obviously not going to give any spoilers away because this definitely, if there's any spoilers to give away, you don't want to know about Game of Thrones spoilers, promise me. I actually do a very good thing. I manage to avoid any spoilers on social media. I don't know how I do it, but I do because I actually wait until the DVD's out and that normally takes, 3-4 months. So I'm kind of desperate to not know any spoilers. So I'm going to be kind. Obviously, I'm not going to give any spoilers away. I'm just also going to give the setup, the overall setup. If by now you're watching Series 7, a review of Series 7, you've probably watched, episodes, Series 1 to 6. You probably know what's going on. But the overall setup is there is a struggle for the Iron Throne. And whoever sits on the Iron Throne rules the 7 kingdoms of Westeros. There has been a power vacuum. I'm talking way back. It all kicked off. The Iron Throne was fragmented, and then everybody was vying for it. These noble houses were vying for the Iron Throne. Now, obviously, it's getting to end game. There is only going to be one more series, Series 8. So things are starting to wrap up. Okay, But anyway, there's a lot of vying for the Iron Throne. Plus, there is an ever increasing and major threat that's coming from. Maybe this is a slight spoiler. The Army of the Dead. Yes, they're coming from the north and they are going to be, well, who knows? They might be defeated, they might not be. That's the overall setup. The themes of this series. Now, George R. R. Martin does look at a lot of themes in the novels and consequently they are just as complicated in the TV series. And he keeps going back to different themes, but he does take a different look at, I say he, I mean obviously the team, but they do take a look at the same themes but from a different angle, and one of those is war. There's that is the overarching, if I was going to say there's one major theme about the whole series, all the series and the series of books, it's war. But this time it's more about the preparation of war. The nitty-gritty, the reality of war. So, for example, have you thought about your food, the food for your troops, your men or women that are fighting? The armour, have you got enough armour and swords and good swords for your men and people that are fighting for you? The food supplies, how are you going to get your food to your army, especially if you've extended your army from your normal power base? Equally, you've got to have people that service the army. So say your swords break or your armour gets dented, you've got to have blacksmiths on hand. So you've got to house those people. Obviously normally it's tents, isn't it? But you've got to be able to make sure that they are fed and that they are well rested and all the practical side, almost all the boring side of war. But it's not boring, it's quite fascinating because you kind of think, normally, I remember at school when we learned about war, you wouldn't necessarily focus on the sort of practical side of it. So this is kind of like, oh yeah, of course. You're only as strong as really, I guess, your food supply and how well your armies are supported. Say, for example, your food supply gets cut off. Say another army marches in and manages to block any food that gets to your main army. then presumably your army might starve, or they might go rogue and they might start, just pillaging local villages for food because they're an army, they got swords, they just think they can take what they like. And quite frankly, who's going to stop them? So obviously it has a lot of consequences, all these practical stuff. The training of the troops, you've got to think about that. Who are the people that train the troops? Presumably they're former soldiers or they're soldiers already. But again, there's lots of training that has to go into it. And also, you've got a further technology. Who are the people that, I guess it's the blacksmiths that would, you've got to be, I can never say this word, innovative, as in thinking stuff up. I can never say the word. Innovative. It's innovationist. Anyway, we'll look that up and look it up in the dictionary. Innovative, where you kind of come up with new ideas, basically. So, if you've got better swords, or if you've got a weapon that you've developed, so say for example the crossbow comes onto the scene. Now the crossbow is presumably more powerful than a normal bow. I don't know, I'm not a weapons person, so but do you know what I mean? It might be quicker to load, or it might be better for short distances or longer distances. I don't know, but if you then get the advantage, you've got to have those people on your side as well. And then of course you've got to have money to pay for the troops and all these supporting people. And of course, if you haven't got the money, then your army, that then comes into, would they still fight for you? Why is your army fighting for you? Is it out of fear? Are you the sort of person, the king or queen that's ruling over them, that puts fear into them and they kind of have to fight for you? Or is it out of loyalty? Do they love you enough that even if they're not getting paid, they would still stand by you and still fight for you? So there's a lot of that preparation, and not just from one side, obviously from all sides that are still left in the Game of Thrones. I'm not going to go too much into that, who's still there and who still isn't. But there's also the side of, when you're preparing for war. So, and I guess if there's battles and there's fights and there's the end game, and if you're in a kind of war, then there's going to be peaks and troughs. So you're going to get big battles, and then I guess both sides recuperate, see if anyone's completely wiped out the other one, and so it's in the lull times, if you like. That's when you do your preparation. But have you got enough army? Maybe you need allies, so diplomacy comes into it as well. So while you're preparing, yes, you're preparing for war, and more likely you're going to go to war, but can you have allies? Can you maybe team up with enemies to fight an even bigger enemy? You've still got to be out there being political. You've got to have politicians with you as well to see, and also see if you can forge peace. Maybe you want to sue for peace. Maybe you want to, or maybe you realise that your army is decimated and you need to sue for peace. So there's a lot going on with the preparing for war. And then other themes that are in this series as well is loyalty. Now loyalty, I always think there's three things that can go with loyalty. Well, two things, so three things that are connected. Loyalty, betrayal, and forgiveness. Because if you've got loyalty, so what makes someone loyal? As I said slightly earlier, is it money? Is it, because you believe in a cause or an idea? Is it because you actually believe in that king or queen personally and what they believe in? Why would you be loyal to someone? Is it because you're being blackmailed? Is it because you feel like you're going to do a favour? But if you're going to be going out to war and fighting for somebody, putting your life on the line, that's got to be really deep-rooted for you to want to go and do that. And as I say, you could be forced into it. And I would imagine that, I don't know, it would take a lot for me to fight. I guess survival as well. If you're being invaded, if your kingdom's being invaded, would you take up arms or would you just surrender? So again, loyalty comes into play. For example, and this isn't a spoiler, but the spider, he does say in this series that he's loyal to the people as he was a slave. So he's got his own personal reasons. He was a slave, he was poor, he was abused, he grew up in the gutter. So he's loyal to his upbringing, to actually more of a situation. And I guess that then turns into an ideal and a belief that he wants life to be just. He wants his a kingdom to be peaceful and just. Therefore, he searches for a king or queen that's going to embody those beliefs that he has. So he might flip-flop. He might go from one king to the next. But it's like, I'm not serving them personally. I'm actually serving if they agree with the ideal or not. And he wanted to make a difference. So he made his way up the chain, up the horrible, greasy, political chain, to be in a position to make that change. Now, obviously, the spider being the spider, he does it all behind the scenes and he does it a bit sneakily. But that's his strength. And he's somebody that's worked out his own identity and his strengths and weaknesses and thinks, right, if I want to change the world, I'm not a king, I'm not a queen, I come from a terrible background, but that's not going to stop me. I'm going to put myself in a situation where I can make the change, I can influence the change. So, of course, with loyalty, there's betrayal. So, obviously, if you've got, say, a character like Spider, you might, a new queen or a new king might see, oh, so hang on, you were loyal to that king and queen, and now you've flipped sides. How can I trust you? You betrayed them in their eyes. How can you be loyal to me? And then that begets forgiveness. Can you then forgive someone that you see has betrayed either you or someone else? Can you forgive them? Can you break that cycle? And you've got, so for example, the Red Priestess. She is loyal not to any person as such, but her god. She is loyal to the god first. So she then follows any king or queen that believes in that god, or at least wants allows that god to thrive and allows that religion to thrive. So again, you can be loyal. It's more for your own reasons, not necessarily the person specifically that you're trying to be loyal to. And of course, if they change their position on what you believe in, they would see it as being a betrayal, because you're like, well, I'm not changing my position. Why would I still follow you if you're, not that, if you've changed your position? So you've got that complexity of loyalty, betrayal, and forgiveness. And that's a really interesting dynamic because, and that's why I think, because he connects these themes so well, or the TV series and in the books as well, and characters have their own motives, but they don't necessarily stay the same because of, as story and events unfold, people do change their mind, people do change their loyalties, and it's not necessarily for what you think, and that's where the twists and turns can come in. And they're believable because of the situation that characters find themselves in. Another theme is revenge. And it's quite a popular theme. But if you think about it, if power is there and loyalty is there and betrayal is there, you're obviously going to get revenge, because people, if something gets done to you, you've got a choice. Do you just take it and go, okay, no, I'm the bigger person, I don't need to, I don't need revenge, I'm going to forgive them. This is going back to the forgiveness. Or do I go, no, I'm going to stand my ground. In fact, you hurt me, or you damaged my family, you hurt me, or you insulted me, I want revenge, I'm going to go after you. So is revenge ever justified? Is there something, and if it is, what's the cut-off point? Is it murder? If somebody just insults you, does that still mean that you need to revenge? Or do you let that go? What are the motivations for revenge? And of course, there's loads of different, reasons why people would want revenge. But it can be a never-ending cycle, can't it? Because obviously, if somebody does something to me, then I might do something back to them, or their family. Then their family might then take up the mantle after they're dead, or someone else's, and it just, so the sons and daughters take revenge for the fathers and mothers, if you see what I mean. So it's a continuous cycle, and that, again, that's what I mean by forgiveness. Somebody at some point has to stand up and say, you know what? I'm not going to carry on this never-ending cycle of revenge. So again, all of these themes do dovetail nicely into each other. And then there's belief. Belief is another theme. What you believe in shapes your life, shapes your actions and your decisions. So again, as I gave the examples of the spider and the Red Priestess, they've got strong beliefs. They're deep-rooted. And so their actions, all their life, consequently, are being driven by these beliefs. You've got religious beliefs. Again, you might, if you fervently believe in a religion, you might then join an order and become a monk, become a priest, or you might dedicate yourself to that belief, which means you might give up things. Your religion may not want you to get married. That might be part of your religion, so you don't get married, you don't have children. That could be part of your religion. So there are these consequences. Belief in humans is such a strong emotion or idea or concept, is very deep rooted. The placebo effect, you do the medical trials where they test a proper drug that they've been developing on 100 people or 200 people. They see the results, but they also have to do sugar water. They give 200 people a non-drug that's just sugar water that shouldn't have any effect, but because they believe that they're getting the drug, they start to improve as well. Their health, and that's scientifically, medically, proven. So again, the human mind, belief can really shape your attitude, your actions, and your decisions. And obviously that can shape who you're going to be loyal to. So again, it all dovetails in. And there's love. There's love that does run through this series as well. And what kind of love? There are many types of love that is explored. You've got romantic love, family love, blind love, foolish love, unrequited. I can never get that word right either. Love, mutual love, tender love, or just the love of being, the love of the idea of love. The sort of unrealistic love. Just I need to be in love, so I'm just going to love, whether or not I really genuinely love the person. So again, that theme is sprinkled there, and I think that theme needs to be there because obviously, if you've got a very brutal war-like theme that does predominantly run through, and kind of is the major theme, I think, also of the whole, all of the Game of Thrones series, then you do need lighter moments. You need the soft as well as the hard. You need contrast. Overall, yes, it has delivered once again. I'm really coming to the conclusion that this probably is the best ever TV show ever made. Forget genre pieces, just the best ever. They've put so much money into it. And of course you might say, well, there's an advantage because of the money. But yeah, I guess so. I guess that's just the way it goes. But they haven't squandered the money. You see where the money's gone, And the special effects are amazing, but they're there to serve the story. First and foremost, it's story and character first. You love the characters, you hate the characters, you're emotionally attached to all the characters, whether you hate them or you love them. There's no whatever. And all the characters seem to be very well rounded. There's brilliant story arcs for the characters. So it doesn't really matter from that point of view that it's fantasy, because that's what it should be regardless of the genre. And that's why Game of Thrones, they've just got it right. They've got it right on that because they realise it's the characters and the story that are going to win, an audience. And therefore, I guess the money flows from that. So they've done such a fantastic job. As I say, the special effects are brilliant. The high production values, it's just as good as the series one. In fact, things get better and better, and it serves the story and the characters. It really does feel like winter is coming. Well, winter is here, basically. The whole winter is coming thing. That the end game is nigh. That things are wrapping up. And it started to feel very claustrophobic because you can feel certain. I don't want to give it away too much, but certain houses, people are getting sort of knocked out the game a bit more permanently. I'm trying not to give too much away. And so therefore it's like, oh, okay, this is getting real. I mean, it's always been real and gritty and realistic, but this is getting really serious now. We are really gearing up. But the nice thing about it is it's taken this whole series is really preparing for the Series 8, which is going to conclude the whole series, the whole Game of Thrones concept. So it really had that claustrophobic film, and it was a beautiful feeling because you're like going, God, this, I'm really, and it's like, who do I root for? And, there's twists and turns again, like you would expect. And I just really love being in this world, and that's the beautiful thing about it. The world building is phenomenal. The fantasy elements are really high stakes. Series 1, Book 1, there's not a lot of fantasy in it. But now it's kind of full-on fantasy. But you know what? You believe it because it's been introduced in a kind of logical, methodically thought-out way, but eked in as well. And so you totally believe anything now, anything that goes. So it really feels like you are gearing up for war. You really feel like this is it. The end time is nigh. So yeah, once again, hats off to Game of Thrones. Series 7, Game of Thrones. Yes, yes, yes. Beautiful, beautiful. I've watched this now a good couple of times. In fact, I've watched the whole series at least 5 times. Can't get enough of it. The production values are excellent. The casting is excellent. The acting is excellent. The scenery is excellent. I can't really fault it. You know, and I do try because obviously you got to try and look at the downsides, but I can't. I'm in love with it. It's just so beautiful. It is the sort of, and it is, you know, as a writer, you kind of go, God, I really wish I'd written this. You know, he's one of those, oh, I really wish. And I'm sure there's lots of fan fiction, there's lots of fan art out there, and you know when something's good, when people feel inspired to want to be creative around something else. You know that that's popular. We have got loads of Game of Thrones reviews as well. We've got the board game, we've got the other couple of spin-off books that he's written. We've also reviewed the Song of Ice and Fire, the actual main books as well. So check those out on our YouTube channel. We've got playlists, we've got books, board games, and other reviews as well. We've got lots of little imp extras. We've got loads on our channel. Over 400 now episodes, I think it is, or nearly 450, I think. And we're continuing as well. Anyway, thank you for watching. Remember to keep it unreal, especially if you're a white